What's going on, everyone? It's kylecroese, and this is the Everything I Watched segment for May 2023. And here's the plot twist: I didn't watch anything. I just played Tis the Kingdom all month. Didn't watch a single film. Not a single film. Just Zelda all month. No, I I did watch some movies. There's some truth to that. I did play Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom like for a lot of the month, but I did watch some movies. So let's talk about a few of these right now. I started the month with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Very much looking forward to seeing the third installment to the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is my favorite MCU film, and James Gunn is one of my favorite filmmakers. I feel like the Guardians movies are some of the more unique movies inside the MCU, like less of the kind of like the studio has their hands on them and doesn't let the directors do their thing. This is really like these movies do feel like James Gunn movies, and that how much he cares about these characters. And when he was fired off the project, was about 2018, I think it was, when he was fired off the project and he wasn't going to be able to finish his trilogy, I was a little let down. I was very disappointed. I would say very, not little. I would say very let down, very disappointed. Just for something that he did like 10 years ago, like, even said like I was a different person back then, I'm a different person now. And then he went to go to do DC. He did the Suicide Squad, and then Disney had him come back for to finish off his trilogy. And now look at him now; he's like the co-CEO of DC. But he did have one last hurrah with Marvel, and he got to finish his trilogy. I fucking loved it. I loved it. It was everything that I wanted it to be, but also more. Based on the trailers, I was like going like, yeah, this is going to be sad. This is going to be emotional, especially if we're dealing with Rocket Raccoon's backstory. And my God, did we get that and more? Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this movie, and it was so refreshing to come off the heels of like, Thor: Love and Thunder, the recent Marvel shows, and Quantumania, and just feeling so stale. And I did say in that last video, I'm done with the MCU after all that. And but I did see Guardians 3, and now like I am so happy to say that Guardians 3 was really, really good, and I really had a blast watching this movie. I actually went and saw this a second time with a friend of mine. So I watched it, I think around like opening night with a few other friends, and then when my friend came to visit, I was like, we got to go see Guardians 3, and then like I watched it again, and it was even better the second time. Some jokes still miss here and there, but most of them do hit. I love all the characters. I've loved this crew. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. If you haven't played the Square Enix game, Guardians of the Galaxy, I think that, in my opinion, has the best story with the Guardians. But it doesn't make these films look like shit. It just means that like that had a lot of time to work on that story, and it really paid off because that game was really really good. I really am looking forward to a sequel. I mean, if we are going to get one to that game. What I really like about this film is that you can just really tell that James Gunn loves these characters, like absolutely loves them, and wanted to all have them leave on like a really high note. Yeah, it just shows through the filmmaking, and some great action scenes. There are a lot of scenes involving Rocket's backstory, which are quite upsetting. I am going to be honest, I didn't think it was like that bad, like people crying and stuff like that. I guess if you are triggered by animal abuse, I think you would probably find it upsetting. But even people are saying that like if you're not, triggered by any of that, that you're still going to have a hard time. And yes, it's pretty upsetting. The scenes are very upsetting. It's a pretty dark movie, but I wouldn't say I was like running out of the theater, I was going to cry or something like that, or like, but it really it does hit, but in a different way. In a way, that was really impactful, and we all know like Rocket, where he came from and what he was experimented on, but then actually seeing that with the High Evolutionary and seeing how vile that person is and how vile that villain is, I think we had one of the better MCU villains with this film. Yeah, I loved everything about this movie. A few jokes miss. But that's really it. It's really just on fire. The special effects look absolutely great. Again, coming off Love and Thunder, coming off Quantumania, special effects in this look really fucking good. Especially Rocket's friends from the past, from his flashbacks, and just him himself. I'm really sad to see these heroes go, to see this group go, because Guardians is probably my favorite superhero group, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see what they do with the characters in the future. I think like this particular lineup is done, but I think we are going to get more with other characters. And I thought it was a great movie to end with a very emotional, character-driven story. And yeah, in terms of like ranking, I don't really think of ranking too much, but it might be my favorite. And that means if it's my favorite, then more than one, I would say it's my favorite MCU film. So I don't know, like that's that, I guess. I'm not too sure. Yeah, I had a great time. Can't wait to watch it again. Can't wait to get the whole trilogy on Blu-ray and watch them all again. And even though I don't really like Superman per se as a hero, looking forward to see what James Gunn does with Superman. Then I watched Renfield, the new Dracula film with Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult, directed by Chris McKay, who gave us the Lego Batman movie, and I really enjoyed that. And I was like looking forward to see what he would do here, and especially from the trailers. And based on the trailers, I was hoping this was going to be just a fun romp, a gory fun romp between Renfield and Dracula, and we did get that. We do get that, and I think it's a pretty fun time. I think Nick Holt's great. I think Nick Cage is great as Dracula. He's having a fucking ball with this role, and I think he does a really great job of it, like I said. And Nicholas Hoult as Renfield, I thought, perfect for the character of Renfield, I think. The violence is so campy and fun. I was happy with that. And that MCR needle drop was the cherry on the cake with Na 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 during that sequence towards the end. If I had any problems with the film, I think, even though I love Awkwafina, I think a little less time spent on her and her sister's story, because it's incredibly underwritten, and I didn't really care that much about the sister and her father and their whole story. I think a little more time spent on Renfield and Dracula's relationship would have been good. I really like the aspect of Renfield going to a self-help group, and I thought that could be maybe explored more as well. But really, I just wanted more scenes with Renfield and Dracula. I think that instead of getting the scenes with Katie and just him having a love interest at all, really, I think more scenes of Renfield and Dracula would have been good. But that being said, I still had fun of it. I don't think it's bad, and I've seen it twice, so that must mean a recommendation. See Renfield, make up your own mind. I thought it was a cheeky, campy, gory, fun romp, and what more can you ask for with films like this? Then I was going to check out Evil Dead Rise, but then I realized I've never seen the original. So my friend and I sat down and we watched the original Evil Dead from 1981, written and directed by Sam Raimi. The film that put the man on the map. It's about a group of friends that go stay in a cabin, and then when they find this book called the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, they unleash evil spirits onto the house, onto the cabin, and everyone gets taken over and turned into these possessed beings called Deadites. And they start, attacking their mates. It starts getting chaotic. Yeah, really enjoyed the film. I thought it was really cool to see, where Raimi started, especially seeing, his later movies and finally seeing where it all came from, where his style originated. And it was really cool to see all that. I thought Bruce Campbell was great as well as Ash. But I think my only problem would be that towards the, just going from the second act to the third act, so that whole last section, it really is dragged out just by the same things happening over and over again. Like a bit of Ash getting attacked by all the Deadites and then making fun of him, and it starts getting a little goofy. So I can see why people prefer Evil Dead 2 to the first one, because that one does go in a bit more of a comedic slapstick comedy direction. And I thought it worked. That would have worked really well with this bridging from the second to the third act, because in this movie it kind of just drags and it's just the same thing happening over and over again. And I kind of was getting a little bit bored. I wasn't get me out of here, but I just felt okay, it's just the same thing happening. So I can see when 2 takes that in a more of a slapstick direction, especially with Bruce Campbell. I can see why that can be more entertaining to people, and that's why people prefer Evil Dead 2 over the first one. But nevertheless, I still enjoyed this. Looking forward to watching Evil Dead 2. I did watch Rise before 2, but I'll get on to 2 and Army of Darkness. And I'm thinking about watching the 2013 one as well, directed by Fede Alvarez, because I've heard that's much different to all this, but still canon in this universe. So, yeah, looking forward to checking all this out. But I did watch Evil Dead Rise, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But before that, I did watch David Lynch, The Art Life. It's not from 2023. It's from... I think it's from like 2015. I don't know why. Oh my God. This is why you got to check. This is why you got to double check those PowerPoints, Kyle. It's not from 2023. It's from 2016. And this is a documentary. I watched this on Mubi. And this is a documentary about David Lynch. And it's just him talking about stories from his childhood. It's cut with paintings that he has worked on over the years that he's created. He's also working on a painting throughout the documentary. And yeah, I'm telling you, the whole documentary is just David Lynch sitting in front of a microphone, smoking a cigarette, and telling you stories from his childhood. And these are not just like, one time this happened, blah, blah, blah. He just doesn't, there's no context. He just starts talking and then the next story starts. I thought it was a really unique way to do storytelling throughout the documentary and the way to present it all. Because like I said, it's all intercut with him working on this painting that he's doing, this giant painting he's doing with his daughter. And it also has flashes of the paintings that he's done over the years. These really demented, macabre paintings that looks really, really interesting. And I liked how it all cut together. I really liked the Bob Dylan story. I'm sure everyone has seen this. They would have heard the Bob Dylan story. I thought that was hilarious. I could listen to David Lynch tell stories all day, really. Even stories from his childhood, which I was like, wow, this man has been around and he's been to lots of different places. He really does delve into his definition of the art life and, how he gets involved in it, what it means to him, and how deep it really all goes for artists like him. And then I thought it was a really cool bonus. We got to see a little bit of a making of Eraserhead. I haven't even seen the film, so looking forward to watching it. I think this month maybe some David Lynch movies this month after watching this documentary. The only David Lynch movie I've seen is Blue Velvet and the Dune movie he did, which I didn't like. So I think June might be a David Lynch month. Watch some David Lynch movies. I know Criterion Channel has some David Lynch movies up at the moment, and I've got Mulholland Drive on Blu-ray. And I'm thinking about watching Twin Peaks as well this month and to start that because that's always been my watch list, but now to finally actually get onto that and watch it, I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, if you're a fan of David Lynch, I mean, I wasn't really a fan of David Lynch, but I would say I was interested in him and really wanted to get to know him more. I think this is a great documentary to start with to really get into his headspace. I thought it was a great way of doing that. And if you like his work, if you're a fan of his work, watch this documentary. Get to know the man a little better. He's a bit weird, which is great though. It's great. Then I watched Evil Dead Rise. I didn't watch 2. I didn't watch Army of Darkness. I didn't watch the 2013 one. I went straight to Evil Dead Rise because I was like, as long as I know and understand what the Deadites are and what we're dealing with, especially with the Necronomicon and the Book of the Dead, I feel like I'm ready for it. And look, I think you can too. I think if you just at least watch the first one, or even just watch 2, because it's literally just a shot-for-shot remake of the first one with a comedy spin on it, you can watch Evil Dead Rise, I think. Even if you just don't want to watch any of those, you can just watch this and have a good time. I had a ball. I had a ball with this one. It's so gory. It's so bloody, but I loved it. I loved the sarcastic humor that the Deadites have, what they bring to the film. That's what makes them unique to like zombies and ghouls and things like that. Other possessed things that really have the same energy. The Deadites have this like sarcastic, almost taking the piss out of their victims. And I thoroughly enjoy their banter and their humor. So this is about a mother and her kids. They live in this apartment. I think it's in Brooklyn. And what happens is an earthquake happens, and one of the kids finds the Necronomicon. He starts playing it over a record player, and then it starts possessing everyone, starting with the mother, Ellie, played by Alyssa Sutherland. And she was fantastic in this movie. She was beautiful as the mother. She was like sweet, but then she becomes this like really demented, haunting, like disgusting figure. And I thought she was like, she killed it. She fucking killed it as the Deadite version of herself. Because what happens is her sister, she comes into town, and then she's got to deal with, Ellie being possessed, and she's got to protect, like the auntie has got to protect the, her Ellie's kids. And like I said, it all takes place in the apartment. And once Ellie's possessed and the Deadites are here, shit starts going down. Shit starts getting bloody. Shit starts getting fun. There's a really great scene with a keyhole, which I thought was excellent. I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I tell you what, kids are not safe in this movie either. So I thought that was a bit of a risk to take, but I think it really paid off because it really just makes for a wild ride of a movie. I loved the opening. I love how the title was implemented into the opening. Big fan of that. I love my opening sequences, my opening credit sequences. I wanted to make a comeback. I just watched Blackberry last night, and they had a great opening sequence. So hats off to Matt Johnson for bringing back the opening sequences, because I watched. I love credit sequences. I love like creative opening credit sequences, and I thought this was like great, starting off as like as the classic like Deadite perspective shot of it flying around, and then you're getting misdirected and it becoming something else without spoiling it. I thought that was awesome. I loved it, and it was I loved the opening, and then the end was just nuts and crazy. And what actually ends up happening, the callbacks to Evil Dead. And what I really liked about this movie, and what's so simple about it, is there is so much setup and payoff throughout the movie. Characters, items, a lot of like Chekhov's scissors, Chekhov's fucking cheese grater, Chekhov's gun, literally Chekhov's gun. I really liked all the setup. Okay, this is going to happen. This is what's going to happen later. This is what we need to focus on, and then we get the payoff with some brutal, bloody violence, which was really such fun. I think if you're an Evil Dead fan, you'll love this. You'll get something out of this. You'll have a good time. Even if you're not an Evil Dead fan and you just want to watch a horror movie with a lot of bloody, brutal violence, Evil Dead Rise is going to be for you. Had a ball. Looking forward to watching it again. Next, Artifice Girl. This is a film written and directed by, I believe, first filmmaker, Franklin Rich. He wrote and directed this, and it's about a AI that is used to catch sexual predators, like pedophiles, people who possess child pornography. And I thought this was very good. There's some parts that falter in my opinion. I think the last chapter is easily the weakest part of the film, because the film is split into 3 parts, and I thought the last part was the weakest one. And but that's not to say the film itself is weak, because I really liked the characters, the dialogue. I really loved the first 2 chapters. The opening chapter is really interesting too. It sets up a lot of intrigue, and then when things are revealed to you, it just becomes, you're learning with the characters. And all the things that are revealed, are really intriguing and pretty entertaining. And then we actually finally see what the AI and how much is involved with it. And man, I was blown away. I was actually absolutely blown away. There are just a few times where like the quiet dialogue were taken up a notch to like yelling, people just yelling at each other, and I really just switch off when people start yelling at each other, unless it's like really good, like if they're really good actors. But when it's like they're not so great, when they're just not there yet, I think yelling I just think it's the weakest part of a performance when you start yelling. And it really, I think it just loses impact on the audience. And it's especially prevalent with the third film, unfortunately, with Tatum Matthews as Cherry. And that's not to say Tatum, I'm not meaning to shit on any child actors or anything like that, but I just think maybe not there yet in terms of performance, but she actually is really good throughout the movie. I just think in the last part it just gets a little bit too melodramatic and a little bit too much, and it feels like, and the dialogue kind of feels like play-like at times, if you know what I mean when I say something like that. That all being said, I still think it's a great first movie, like a really good debut. It's one of my favorites of the year. I was never bored for a second, and I would recommend that you check this movie out. The Artifice Girl, check it out. Then I watched Inside. This is a film starring Willem Dafoe about a thief that gets caught inside a building. He's trying to steal a painting inside the building, and when his crew abandons him, he gets trapped inside this high-rise kind of upper-class rich person's apartment. And I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I was really bored throughout this movie. I nearly fell asleep. I love Willem Dafoe, man. I love Willem Dafoe. I'll do anything for the man. I'll watch his movies. But the film just like really starts and ends with its premise, and that's about it. That's all I could really get out of it. There are some entertaining sequences, like he yells at a pigeon. I think that's pretty cool. He like rolls around in water. He just like shits in a bathtub. There are some, there's some pretty entertaining sequences with old Willem, but the film itself, I mean, it runs for about an hour and 50 minutes, and I really felt like really every minute of it, especially throughout the second and third act. I just really felt every minute of it. And when people say nothing really happens, well, yeah, he goes a little bit insane, but I have to say, in terms of how I got something, in terms of me getting something out of this, yeah, nothing really did happen. He was just trapped inside a building for an hour and 50 minutes. Nothing really interesting happened. I liked his little commentaries on people on the cameras and everything like that. And like I said, all of the quirky stuff he did inside the building. But that's really all that happens. He just tries to escape, and you just get a lot of scenes of him building things, and there's not really, and then the film just ends. And I was just like, I kind of just got like nothing out of it. Unfortunately, not a recommendation for Inside. But if, like I said, do want to watch it, make your own opinion, go right ahead. Not going to stop you. And especially if you like Willem Dafoe, look, he yells at a pigeon. Where else are you going to see Willem Dafoe yelling at a pigeon? Only in this film. He might do other films where he yells at pigeons, but this is a first for Willem Dafoe yelling at pigeons. And that's all the movies I watched. That's it. I told you. That's all I did. But I did watch some TV. I did finish season 4 of Succession, aka the entire series of Succession. It's all over. I might be having a video about that, or another podcast, maybe a podcast about Succession, because there are some things I want to talk about and how much the series means to me, because I do think it is my favorite series now of all time. And they really just a brilliant final season. It's the best final season I've ever seen of any television show, and they really stuck the landing with the finale. And I was incredibly, incredibly impressed and satisfied with how Succession ended. And it all made sense, in my opinion. It all made sense. So, yeah, loved it. Goddamn, I loved it. And we'll be talking about it in depth soon. And the same goes with Barry season 4 as well. I was also really satisfied with how that wrapped up. It never became anything inferior than what it was. It always stuck to what its DNA was throughout the entire series. It never got stale. And I thought it left and ended with a bang. I thought Bill Hader did a fantastic job on this series. I am very much looking forward to a rewatch. And like I said, I think I'll be talking about both of these shows more in depth, I think, on a podcast as well. And I really want to dive into the finales and what it means and how I feel about it, and what the next projects are that come from these creators. Because two of these two are my favorite shows of all time, because they know when to stop. I love when, like I've talked about this before, I think, I just love when a creator knows when the story is done. These shows did it incredibly well, and it really paid off, and it really made for a great watch. So, yeah, big recommendations for both Succession and Barry. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it. I told you I didn't watch much, and I did watch a lot of TV. But hopefully in June, I will come away from the lands of Hyrule and watch some movies. I did watch Spider-Verse, so I'll be talking about Spider-Verse for sure in June. I just finished Generation Kill, the TV series from David Simon and Ed Burns. So, yeah, hopefully more stuff to talk about in June. or maybe some more Breath of the, or maybe some more Tears of the Kingdom. Who knows? But you'll find out in the next video. So stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.